When I look back on my life, on my 54 years of life, childhood was an amazing time. Ups and downs. I grew up in a working class pit village in West Yorkshire where my parents were mixed. I'm a mixed race kid, grew up as a mixed race kid. Dad was quite dark skinned, my mum was white, and I learned about racism quite early in my life. When people realise what colour my dad was, it's amazing how they turned on me. But you know what, I'm glad it happened. I'm really glad, because it teaches you wisdom, teaches you things about life that you wouldn't normally learn about. Many of those kids that were like nasty at school, I ended up fighting with them, beating the shit out of them, and then they ended up becoming my mates and saw things in a different light. But you know, I wouldn't go back and change it for anything at all, because it made me who I am now. But as time went by, and I did all the things that, you know, teenagers do, going out with girls, going out with my mates, getting drunk, rave scene, getting hammered on a weekend, popping pills, you know, bit of acid, all that kind of stuff. Again, I wouldn't change any of that, because again, it brought me wisdom. It taught me things. I met so many people when I was doing that kind of thing. It was just an amazing time. But what I did find was that whenever I got settled somewhere, I started to realise that life just flew by. You know, when you're settled and you're in a comfortable position, like say the previous sort of 3 years have been, I was renting a house. It was cheap, it was in a really nice area. Most people would have been absolutely made up what I got for the money, and I was, you know, I was very, very grateful to have what I had. But you know, something occurred to me in those few years that I was there, and that was that comfort is not living. You know, just sitting there, getting home from work every day, and from like 4 o'clock in the afternoon till whenever I went to bed, I sat there like a zombie in a house. And quite often I got anxious and I felt unhappy, isolated, and I felt like I wasn't living. That's the main thing. I just thought, I'm just existing. I've got no fun. Everything's really easy. It sounds crazy to most people that just having everything in place wasn't what I wanted. I wanted little challenges. I wanted things that took me out of my comfort zone, because when you get taken out of your comfort zone, that's when you really are living and you're not just existing. And I've seen people who I know that have stayed in the same house for 20 years, 30 years, and I think to myself, in the 20 years you've just like been going to work, living in your house, having your 2-week holiday a year, I've done so many things. I mean, I travelled around France working and staying in digs and here and there for 10 years. And that was an amazing time in my life. It was probably the most amazing time that I ever had in my life. And when I look back at that, I think, why am I not doing that still? You know, I'm 54. I went to France when I was 32, I read a book by a guy called John Anderson, and it was called Che Guevara. And reading about Che Guevara's life, that man's life, the things that he did for other people and the world that he wanted to create, whether you know, I'm not a political person anymore. I'm just totally done with politics. It's all a load of shit. But yeah, there was a political leaning there. But what I will say is that that man, after reading that book, he 100% inspired me, and I felt a deep connection to him, even though he's no longer here. And within 2 weeks, 2 weeks, I was on my way to the south of France with a few tools in the back of my van. And on the day that I set off, an amazing adventure began, because I chose not to live in comfort, because comfort isn't always the best thing. It makes you lazy. I think it makes you weak, and it denies you, untold experiences that you might go through and you wouldn't go through if you were living in a house. And that's why I've decided to go back on the road. And that's why I've got my van. That's why I'm choosing to make life that bit more difficult, because I want to feel alive. And already I'm like coming up against challenges, but I'm feeling alive, and I'm doing more, and my brain's working, and I'm having to think each day what I'm going to do. I haven't got all of these mod cons to make life easy. Yeah, I've got a bit of electricity. I'm lucky. I'm on someone's driveway, and people are coming up and saying, "Oh, are you okay in there? How do you eat?" And I'm like, well, you know what? Last night I had chicken Penang curry, which I made myself with rice. And they're like, "What? You had food? You can make something like that in your van?" And I'm like, yeah, of course. It's difficult because I'm like limited space. I'm 6'2", although luckily I've got a high roof van now. But you can still do things in a van, and it's not as comfortable. But you know what? I enjoy that food so much more because it's been a challenge, and I really appreciate everything that comes to me that's a challenge. And yeah, some things can take you to places that you don't really want to go, but I think that is what makes you stronger. And I have to say, despite me having some really bad shit happen this week between me and some family members who just like shat on me, you wouldn't believe, it's caused me anxiety, which I have suffered from in the past. But I've used my breathing techniques. I've used meditational solfeggio frequencies, put the calm music on, breathe, do all this kind of thing, and it just brings you back. It just brings you back. And I feel, even though I'm more uncomfortable, I actually feel better. So if any of you out there are thinking about buying a van and going and living in it, I have got things really uncomfortable at the moment, but you know what? I would not go back to that house that I was living in. I wouldn't go. No way. I love this. I love it. I've got my door open, and there's the garden's all overgrown, but I see this fox. I see it go past, and it looks straight down. It looks straight down at me in between my eyes, and off it goes again. I never got that when I was living in a house. It's about the magic of being off the grid. You know, I mean, I'm not off grid. I've got electric, and there's a drain out there can chuck all my pee down. But once I get out on the road, again, it's going to be challenges, and that's where I want to be. So don't be frightened, because there are people out there that will help you, look out for you, that are doing exactly the same thing. And you won't find that kind of community if you're living on the street, because everybody's like, they shut their doors, everybody's curtains are shut. On the street I was living on, right, their curtains were shut before it even got dark. The blinds were all closed. Everybody's just closed off to each other. It's not natural, it's not normal to just not speak to your neighbours. Half of my neighbours were like really sort of cagey, and you know, you could see they just avoid each other. It's like they come out and they see a neighbour and they just turn away, you know, as if to say, I don't want to speak to that person. That's not how we were meant to be. We're social creatures. We're social animals, if you want to call it that. We're designed to help each other and be sociable and to love each other and create community. That's how things were back in the olden days, before the Industrial Revolution, when farms existed. You know, farmers would grow things and they'd exchange with the next farm, and then, you know, one farmer's daughter would marry another farmer's son, and you know, everybody's interconnected in a deep way, just like the trees are in a forest. You know, when you see a forest, it's not just a load of separate trees. They're all connected underground. They all talk to each other. They're all part of the same system. That's how we need to be. Not this divided world that we live in now. It's just so horrible. I don't want to be part of that world. I don't want to be part of a divided society that's obsessed with money and material things. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. As long as I've got my van and somewhere to live, you know. It's a 20-year-old van. I don't care. I like it. I love it. Did I want a fancy brand new Merc? No, I didn't. I'm quite happy with my old banger. I've been doing all the rusty bits, and eventually I'll probably get it sprayed in Morocco or something and get it done really cheap down there. But it's going to be, you know, it's going to be a proper, like, fucking hippie bus or whatever you want to call it. I just want to appeal to people in a kind way, and whatever I can do for other people, then so be it. As long as people don't take the mick, you know. But I do. That's the way I am. We all exchange help with each other, and we all look after each other, and we all look out for each other. So, see you on the road, and thanks for listening. And peace to you all, and love, and take care.